Hey there. Didn't see you walk in.
How's it going?
You'll never talk alone. I'm your host, Alex Lovell, here with the returning Zach Osborn, healthy. Yet again. Zach, how are you doing besides being healthy?
Yeah, I'm alive, and I'm really apologetic for screwing up your intro because I thought that it was a conversational bit between you and me instead of you and the audience. So, my bad.
Well, I saw so many people come in that I didn't know who to actually respond to.
Oh yeah, I see how it goes. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's just us two today because everyone else was killed by Thanos. So we're the ones left to discuss this match. And I feel like you came back because Palace is also Brighton's mortal enemy, and you're just so obsessed with them.
Yeah, I hate Palace.
Yeah, so you had to come back and discuss this 4-3 victory, one of the sweatiest matches of the season, I think is the best way to describe it. Lots of just dabbing your forehead and throwing stuff. Joseph put this well in our text before he was obliterated. Was this the most Liverpool versus Palace version of this match to ever exist?
I mean, yeah, since the one that like sealed our fate down the stretch in our second place season. When was that? 13-14?
I don't acknowledge that ever having happened.
Sorry, I triggered you. But I mean, I feel like this is the most Palace match since that Palace match. And I will point out that I was the first in the group text to make such a remark.
Yeah.
I believe immediately post game, I said that fulfilled every stereotype of playing Palace.
That's true.
And I feel like it really did. With us having the lion's share of possession, but Palace finding moments of brilliance and/or stupidity on our part. Palace taking advantage of their physical players in certain situations, and us not being able to find our finishing touch for large spells, weird late goals, a red card. Like, I mean,
it had
the
it
whole
all.
thing. It really did.
The only thing that was missing was, because it was their third string keeper, him playing like peak Buffon or
That's true.
Like world-class keeper. He had an error, which is very uncommon for backup keepers playing against Liverpool. But
yeah, that was nice to see a backup keeper playing like a backup keeper against us.
And not our starting keeper playing like a backup keeper most of the time.
Well, I can't remember which of the Robbies showed their team of the season thus far after our match during their analysis. But just to see Alisson, a Liverpool goalkeeper, in anyone's team of the season was, I mean, I know we've sung his praises like time and time again, but seeing that on a screen was just so refreshing.
And surreal. How is this even happening?
Right.
This match seemed like it was taken from another time, another era in Liverpool, namely last season. So, Zach,
right.
how did we even pull this off, considering how most of the matches this season have gone? How did we kind of revert back to last season?
Yeah, it was like a totally different script than anything we've seen. I think this is right. I think Palace was the first team to score more than one goal at Anfield this season. So, despite our shortcomings in this match, like just right out of the gate, you have to give Liverpool props for finding another way to win. We won matches like this all last season. You just acknowledge that. So we definitely sort of reverted back to sort of a leaky, sloppy defense, and we relied on just the overwhelming quality of our attacking players, I would say. And it's nice to see that we can win like that still. I would rather us go back to the game plan of just controlling matches and scoring every now and again, because I really like doing that better.
Oh
This match reminded me of like, I guess, why I had to get on blood pressure medicine for the first time in my life during last season.
yeah.
It's probably unrelated. It's probably just due to my terrible health.
I don't think it's unrelated.
Okay, maybe it wasn't. But yeah, I totally take your point that this felt like a match pulled out of last season as opposed to one that we've seen for much of this season. It just played out very, very differently.
Yeah, and of course, like a lot of people have pointed out, this was the one match we invited the 104-year-old guy to. We take him to this heart-racing, end-to-end, just nerve-wracking game. I guess we're trying to end his life.
Apparently.
We didn't succeed because he met up with Klopp after the match. Yeah, it was weird. This was my favorite win of the season because of how it happened, but this was my least favorite game of the season because of how it happened.
Right.
The win shows a lot about the team, and it punishes the fans for having to just ride the whole way through.
Yep.
But to be able to find another gear, to be down at half, and to come out and immediately level, it was a very weird feeling to not be playing all that well. I mean, to have a lot of possession, but have a wall in front of them, and then to come back out and then get pegged back again and have it 2-2. There was still always this feeling, and it hasn't happened in a very long time, that we were going to win. I was nervous, but not too nervous. Like it sucked. And
right.
Think about the implications of what would have happened had we not gotten the points, and that was kind of always on the mind a little bit. But it wasn't like this team doesn't look like they're going to score. This team looks like they're going to drop points. There was always that belief in how good we are that we were going to pull this out, because especially at home, and I think Anfield played a huge part in pulling the team back up. But I love it because that's not a feeling we've had.
Right.
Like we've talked about in the thread that we have probably since 08-09. It's been so long since we've just been so confident in our team. And who do you think stepped up and kind of took this game by the scruff of the neck, which is something that we've seen our team do for the first time in a long time? So who do you think was kind of leading the charge for us to come back?
I mean, to me, it felt like Salah. And, we talked about this on the podcast. Mo has been having this sort of odd season where he's leading the league in goals, but you almost when you see that, you're almost surprised at each time you see it again and see that he's still at the top of the list. Because, he's been quiet for large spells and then he'll sort of explode, and every now and then he scores a pin or two, and just keeps sort of quietly putting together another impressive campaign. Obviously it'll be nothing like the heights of last season, but he's still one of the best players in the league, and I think coming out after half, scoring really quickly. I don't know what the rest of the match looks like if we don't get that quick goal coming out of halftime, because immediately it changed the tone of the match. Anfield erupted after being a little deflated at the stroke of halftime. And, I just felt like Mo was sort of laser focused and on full display, just the level of danger he poses to any team, including one that's as physical as Palace. So I felt like he played a big part in the comeback for sure. And obviously with 2 goals that can't really be denied.
Absolutely. Like he led the comeback because he caused the comeback.
Right.
By scoring and put us in the lead. And it was yet another, stylistically and narratively, it was a game from last season where our offense was the reason we won and bailing out our defense. And a big part of why the defense didn't look as good is because half of them were missing. We were playing
right.
two of the defenders of the 4 in the back line were the defenders when our defense wasn't good. So it kind of explains why the defense wasn't good this time. I mean, it's a lot to ask of James Milner to mark Wilfred Zaha, having not played right back except for a little bit in a match earlier this season, and then Matip, who just hasn't had much game time because he's been hurt so often. I mean, that's a big ask, and you could definitely see it. But Van Dijk definitely helped. I mean, his presence wasn't as noticeable because we didn't keep a clean sheet. Right. But I mean, his vision to hit his shot off of the Palace player so that it would bloop over everyone right to Salah. I mean, you can't deny the genius of that pass.
Right.
And especially the intentionality of that play, because he definitely meant it. And I'd say, and it's going to sound weird coming from me, but I'd say the off-the-ball work of Jordan Henderson especially helped motivate the team, because that was a captain's performance. And it's going to sound like I'm being a dick by caveating it, but defensively and work rate wise, that was absolutely the kind of performance we needed to motivate everyone, because he was everywhere. He was winning tackles. He was getting stuck in, and say what you will about his distribution, but he was doing the smart thing and getting it to the people that were going to make stuff happen. And so I definitely will compliment him there. One player, well, two players, I guess, who did not really shine, although one of them got a goal, were Mane and Keita. And I guess we can start with Keita. What do you think he helped any, or was he just completely awful? And if so, for the latter, why?
I wouldn't say he was completely awful. I would say he was noticeably not Gini Wijnaldum, which Gini has been playing at such a level that the drop in quality is noticeable. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the tactical mind. Or at least the one who's able to. I can't see the things you see on the pitch. I was never a soccer player myself. Sadly, I know that's hard to believe. But so was Keita being asked to sort of fulfill Gini's role in his absence, or how does that differ? How does that comparison differ in your mind?
I think part of the problem was that he was not being asked to fill Gini's role. He was more being asked to fill Mane's role on the left. He was essentially he was playing as a left winger, and that's, in my opinion, a huge reason why he didn't perform very well and why he hasn't been performing. The past few times he's been played on the left wing, which he is not. And Klopp's explanation after the match was kind of, he's been training so well, I just had to get him in there. But that may or may not help him, because he's struggling for confidence. And no matter what level you are, when you're playing out of position, when you're really good at one thing and you're told to do another thing, it takes kind of the muscle memory out of it. You start overthinking things. You start things that were second nature. You have to think about it a little more, because you're doing a lot of things differently. And I had to go through that when I was converted from a striker to a wide midfielder in the classic English / most American soccer teams 4-4-2. And it was weird. And it gets in your head a little bit. And you can see that kind of with Hazard playing as a number 9 for Chelsea. Like, he's really good at being a left winger. He's really good at what he's really good at. And you're trying to make him do something else, he doesn't look at all like the player that he can be when he's told to do what he does best. And I think that's what we're doing a little bit with Keita, because Keita played as his main position against Burnley away and at Bournemouth away, if I believe. And at Burnley away, he was arguably our best player. At Bournemouth away, he was one of our best players. We just got to let him do what he's good at. And by asking him to do something that he's not good at, of course he's not going to do it well. And you could even see it with Milner a little bit. He looked out of place at right back. I mean, he does a lot of things well there, but still it's not natural. So I think that To answer your question, he did not fulfill the Genie role because he wasn't playing there. And I think that was kind of a big miss, even though Bobby, Fabinho, and Hendo did have a good working relationship for the most part. We did miss Genie or someone doing that role.
That's interesting because I guess my football IQ isn't quite high enough to be able to spot that as it's playing out on the pitch. I just kind of read it as Keita having a bad match and didn't necessarily pick up on the fact that he was being asked to play a role that's not so naturally, his. And it was a little baffling because he has had some really dominant performances when he's kind of like in the engine room in the center of the park. So yeah, that's good stuff. Thanks.
But you didn't think he was terrible? Because I didn't. He definitely took some bad touches and didn't look his dynamic best. But he still contributed, and he wasn't outstanding. But I don't want to write him off.
I mean, a very mediocre, 5 or 6 out of 10 performance, but not a 3 out of 10 was a liability type of match, in my opinion.
Yeah. And someone who did almost have a 3-4 out of 10 and then bumped it up to like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 at the very end was Sadio Mane. And right. I know we used Murphy's Law to our advantage.
That's right.
Just kind of being like, what is he doing out there? Like, can you try to even explain his performance?
Well, he made every bad and wrong decision possible until he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just seemed that every time he would get into a dangerous position, he would take the wrong option. There was one time especially where he took like a low, not that powerful shot that went straight to the keeper when Shaqiri was making a run unmarked at the edge of the box, streaming in towards goal, and Mane could have easily found him, and it probably would have been an easy goal for Shaqiri. And there were many. That was probably the worst moment for me, where I just said, "Gosh, it's like he didn't even see it, or he was thinking so selfishly. He just had to take the shot himself." But he had that type of day where anytime he was faced with a choice, he seemingly made the wrong one. His touch was heavy, and then it got better suddenly, which we know he's perfectly capable of.
Yeah, it was very confusing, and then it was absolutely fine that it was confusing because he buried that chance, and that's what's so great about him. And it's something that we have been missing for a while. It's a classic kind of striker's performance, even though he wasn't playing out-and-out striker. It's a guy who has no impact really for 89 minutes and then does something immensely decisive
right
in the last minute. And that's all you need him for in these kind of games if it's not going his way. So I'm so happy we did not take him off. And I'm so happy we have him because he benefited a lot from Andy's work. And he's one of those players where if you give him enough chances, he'll bury it. So, yeah. And he's having to do that. And I'm interested to hear your take on this because we've changed shape a little bit, as we know. But we're seeing Bobby Firmino play pretty much out and out as a 10, which we had played before he came to Liverpool and has not played for a while since. So what do you think of him in this role, dropping deeper to get the ball and just being a lot more involved in the build-up play?
Well, I think we've seen throughout Bobby's Liverpool career that regardless of where you play him across the front three, or if he drops back a bit, like he is going to track back and be heavily involved. He's not going to isolate himself at the top of the pitch and look for long balls in. Like that's just not Bobby's game. He's never been that player. He always makes decisive challenges. He pops up like like our center back is missing because they got called out, and then suddenly Bobby makes a potentially goal-saving challenge, and you're like, what the hell is he even doing at that end of the pitch? But that's just who Bobby Firmino is. And so I think, he played this role at Hoffenheim, correct? That was his primary role? He was incredible there, lit the Bundesliga on fire, got himself recognized, and got the move to the big club because of his success in that role. I think it makes sense. Like it's a little jarring to see us changing things up this much, but he definitely has the qualities to make this move a success for him. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to work out for other players on the pitch who are being moved around, but in terms of Bobby playing at the 10 spot, like I think he's going to be great.
Yeah, he's one of the players that has been moved to a different position that doesn't look uncomfortable, mostly because it's a position he is comfortable with. So it's great to see that he's been doing really well, and I'm so happy to see him scoring again. He had gone for kind of a long while without scoring, and not only has he revitalized his form, he's pretty much picked my fantasy team up from the depths because I brought him in at the right time.
Yeah.
And he got that hat trick against Arsenal, and I was back in business. So major ups to our crazy Brazilian. I'm so glad he has a new dancing partner.
Bobby Firmino has been my favorite Liverpool player for a while now, sort of regardless of form. I just love him. I love him. And he's not always the most exciting, for large spells of this season. He went pretty quiet. But man, just his force of personality, that big, blinding smile of his. My favorite goal celebration in all of sports, the about to take my jersey off, then realize I don't want to get carded, so pull it back down.
Maybe give a little finger wag.
Yeah, a little finger wag. No. And then the play on covering an eye, like I only need one eye to score goals. Like, man,
what a guy.
What a guy. I also have him on my draft team, and he did nothing for me for a long while, and now it's paying off.
And I'm going to thank you for reminding me that I also have a draft team, so I should probably check that.
Maybe you should.
Right, because I picked Kevin De Bruyne at the beginning of the season, and don't remember if I ever remembered to bench him or not.
He was my first pick.
Same.
So that hurt, and I dropped him because I knew it was gonna. And then I had it on alert, so I would be able to sign him back, which I did. So I've got him back. Feels good. Good to go.
And then he continually gets hurt. So.
Oh, was he hurt again?
No, he's back, but he came back and then got hurt 2 games later again after his big layoff. So he's really only played 4 games in the Premier League, it seems like, which is good for us.
It is.
And what's also good for us is that we've got, I think it was 12 days total in between matches.
Nice.
So what are we going to do because this is a big long rest, but we're not going to have Milner for the next game.
Right.
Trent may or may not be fit. Rafa Camacho, while his tackling skills are incredible, as we saw in the last minute of this game, though that was his only Premier League minute so far. Lovren's still hurt. Matip could break at literally any second. Gomez is recovering, but we're not sure if he's going to be back. So let's assume that not all of those people are going to be fit because they're still hurt. And Genie's hurt. What do we do versus Leicester? What should we be working on? How are we going to get around the fact that our entire defense is broken?
I don't know. I mean, Fabinho is an option, but we have center backs. I mean, Matip and Van Dijk would probably be the start. Like moving Fabinho back doesn't really solve it. Like the problem is mostly at right back. Sure would be nice to have Klein right now. We can't recall him, can we?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Unfortunately. I mean, Fabinho does play right back for Brazil, which could help, but I would hate to miss him in the midfield too.
Would we do that? Would we? But if we did, would that allow Keita to play where you want him to play?
It would. I mean, it would make sense. It would work.
And then would you move Shaqiri into this like so okay. All right. So you got Robertson on the left, you got Van Dijk and Matip in the middle. Hypothetically, you're moving Fabinho to right back. Do you move Keita more into the middle and throw Shaqiri out on the left and boom, you've got it?
Or Shaqiri on the right, Mane back to the left.
Okay. Yeah.
With Hendo and Keita together in the midfield at this point.
I mean, I like that. I don't think that's what we'll see because it makes too much sense.
Yeah. Inevitably, someone will return from their injury and throw a wrench in our plans.
Or there's going to be a kid. Like, Klopp would do it.
Yeah, he would. He'll put Camacho in there. He likes him, and he's earning his spot. I mean, he played well against Wolves and saved the game with a great tackle.
Is Camacho a kid, or is he just like unseen by us? Really,
he's a kid. He's pretty young. I think he's 18. He was playing for in the UEFA Youth League earlier this season.
Okay, yeah, that counts.
So we've got a lot of kids ready to go, but I think we've solved it. So the person who listens to this podcast who's at the club, write that down, but don't leave it out so anyone can see it. There are spies from Leeds in the bushes.
Yes, we have seen that.
Now the biggest question that we've been building up to this entire episode. Zach, what are you going to do with your weekend? Because we're not playing. It's weird. What do we do?
Actually, I've got a really good answer to this. I'm going to a Burns night supper, celebrating the national holiday of Scotland.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I have a student in my class who has only lived here in America for a few years. She's legit Scottish, born and raised in Aberdeen. And her mother is now a university professor, and that brought her family to the States. And I have discussed my love of all things Scotland with her enough, apparently, to receive an invite to their annual Burns night dinner for friends and family.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to go do that and have some haggis and what, neeps and tatties? Is that that a thing? That's a thing.
Tatties are for sure.
Yeah. And I would drink a lot of scotch, but it's being held on the campus of our local Christian university. So it is a dry event, sadly. But they're having Iron Brew, which is like, the soda of Scotland.
The lifeblood of Scotland, I believe.
Yeah, there you go.
I have something.
So I will raise a toast to Andy Robertson while I'm there.
Yes. You definitely have to. And maybe you could sneak a Belhaven or two in there because Belhaven is a local college. So you could be like, I'm just supporting my community.
Right.
At all. Yeah. Well, my weekend is not nearly as exciting. I'm just going to watch other leagues.
Yeah, same thing you always do, really.
Mine doesn't change, really. I have a decision to make at 9 a.m. But yeah.
What matches are on then that you have to decide between?
Let me double check. There's a lot of good ones this weekend. So, listener, be prepared because you don't want to watch the FA Cup nonsense. So, yeah, we got Dortmund at Hanover. Dortmund trying to keep pace or keep ahead in the Bundesliga. Also, Freiburg versus Hoffenheim. It's just going to be a crazy game because Hoffenheim are crazy, and
Are they?
Yeah, the way they play is really interesting. They're very attacking. They're very organized. They're kind of like a more I wouldn't know. They're kind of a more balls to the wall version of how we played last year, just because they throw everyone forward, and it's very similar. It's a lot of inspiration taken by Nagelsmann from Klopp, so they're always interesting to watch. Also in Spain, you got Atletico Madrid versus Getafe, who are on the doorstep of Europe, and Atletico trying to challenge Barcelona for the title. I mean, although I don't know how they're going to possibly challenge now that Barcelona have signed Kevin Prince Boateng, because that's kind of the signing everyone was clamoring for. Everyone was always saying, look, if Barca want to win everything, they just need to sign Kevin Prince Boateng. Am I right?
Yeah. That's what everyone says.
That's what everyone...
This is showing my knowledge of football outside of the Premier League. I think you're making a joke, but I don't know how to properly respond so you can see it out.
I was, but I think I have the right response.
Okay, good.
But yeah, there's a lot to handle. Unfortunately, we cannot view our beloved Zagreb from here in the States. Although Zach,
don't say our.
Yeah, well, I'm
the lone dissenter.
I'm shunting your fandom.
Have we addressed this accurately on the podcast that all members of this podcast are Zagreb fans, and I am the lone Hajduk Split fan, which means they just shit on me all the time because their Split is terrible and Zagreb wins everything.
I mean, Duke is in the name, so of course we're going to poop all over you. We'll have to recount the origins of this weird support probably on a bonus episode, because it's not a long story, but it has a lot of color to it. So
that's one for our Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the bronze tier and above. So we'll get to that eventually. As you can tell, listener, we're out of stuff to talk about because we don't play for...
We were out like 10 minutes ago.
We don't play for another like 4 years. So I will let you know that Joseph and I played a little FIFA and talked about the pros and cons of both FIFA and Pro Evolution Soccer. And that is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Y6NVZ. That's not it at all. Just search You'll Never Talk Alone on YouTube. You'll find it. You can find it on our Twitter page at YNTA Podcast, or on our website, yntapodcast.podbean.com. I hope that's the right one.
It sounded right.
Let us know what you think about anything and everything. We're here. The window closes soon. Submit us some bids. We'll accept them or not. We'll try to sign some players. Zach, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being back. Any parting thoughts?
No. I'm wondering if I'll ever be featured on another pod with like a full cast. Because I feel like every time I am able to join, like most everyone else is out. I wonder if there's any correlation. Am I being avoided by the other members of the pod?
I don't want to confirm it, but I don't want to deny it.
Ooh, a very diplomatic answer from the ultimate podcast diplomat, Alex Level.
Absolutely. Yep, I didn't know how to respond to that.
That's all we got.
But also be on the lookout later this week. We're planning on recording a bonus episode. We're trying to add more bonus content, even though we don't have Patreon tiers. But we love you all that much that we're willing to give you bonus content. This one, don't hold me to this, future selves, that we are going to be discussing our favorite eras of Liverpool FC since we started supporting. So that should be a great discussion. I'm a little biased, but I think it'll be awesome. Probably one of the best episodes of podcasts to ever exist. So you probably want to tune into that. That'll wrap it up. Zach, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.
And goodbye to the other people.
Peace out.